Welcome to Smashing Through Walls with Carla McGee. Whether you are just pulling up a seat to the table, breaking a glass ceiling, or smashing through walls, grab your favorite mug and join us on the first and third Friday at 11 o'clock for candid conversations with industry experts and decision makers as we navigate and explore all the things related to real estate and community.
Good morning, Wall Smashers. I'm so happy everyone's here where we don't just want to break the glass ceiling, we want to smash down the walls. Today, I am super excited to have Vice Mayor of Mesa, Jenn Duff. How are you? Good morning.
Wonderful. I am so glad to be here. We're going to have a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
We are. And for those of you, like nobody knows, but we were totally chatting off air about just what Mesa enthusiasts we are, that I live in Mesa. I love Mesa. I'm raising kids in Mesa. And I was so intrigued because Jenn, you are a native. You like your Mesa days, they go way back. You graduated
Born and bred. Born and bred. Went to Mesa High, Mesa Community College. I live in downtown Mesa now, but I've lived in various parts of the city over my life for sure.
I love it. And I was kind of reading. So you graduated from Mesa High School. Obviously not when your career started, it looks like, because it says like you went to elected council in 2018. I'm going to assume you didn't graduate in 2018. So what was the kind of the gap in between there?
The gap in between is really, I'm an entrepreneurial spirit. My first career actually was in fashion, and it was in a corporate environment, and it didn't agree with me after a while. I loved fashion, but I found out I didn't like the business of fashion. So I did the most likely thing from there. I just went fishing. So I had been competing on the weekends and such, going to the lakes and competing in the local fishing tournaments. And when I decided to leave fashion, I had entered a tournament and had won it, and it gave me enough resources that I thought if I budgeted, I could leave my job and maybe try out this fishing thing as a career. And I did. And it brought me eventually to Japan.
What?
And I lived there for a year and promoted the sport, fishing their tournaments, and started advising to distributors of sport fishing about bass fishing and the fishing in America they wanted to follow. Started advising for them. By the time I left, they asked me to set up a business and continue that advisement. And over 30 years later, I am still in that business.
That is fascinating. And what an enigma, because like I wouldn't equate a starting fashion career with then professional fishing.
Yeah, fashion, fishing. And then I went to city council. It didn't start with an F, but
we could figure one out.
But sure. It wasn't related, so I did qualify. What happened? I work in my business. I got into property management. I owned an office building, whatever. I was living in Northeast Mesa, and I decided I just need a change. Mm-hmm. And I had been attending the Mesa Art Center, some of their new events. They had just opened in 2005. And I just like kind of remember the downtown of when I was a kid. I'd go there. We'd go there for shopping, restaurants, especially at Christmas, the temple lights and Main Street. It was all dressed up. It was like the place to be. I really enjoyed it. And I went back down. Mesa Art Center was fabulous, but the whole surrounding area was
wah.
Yeah. It was bad. But those cute little historic bungalows,
they're
still
darling.
cute, even when they needed a little work. And I ended up buying one on Bank Repo. This is 2008, at the bottom of the housing market. And I decided, this is going to be kind of an interesting thing. There's something there. And I was right. I fell in love with the community. I got to know a lot of the people who live there and the businesses. And we loved the charm, except we knew there had to be a lot more work and to bring it back to being a viable area of our city. And there's no place to hang out, no place to go other than the art center. That didn't qualify to, just hang out with friends. So I started throwing some music and art parties the third Friday of every night at my home. It was just a tiny bungalow, so it was mostly in the yard. And we started talking about what we were passionate about. That was the rule of the party. You couldn't talk about what you did for work or blah, blah, blah.
Or like boring politics.
No,
or
I want to
anything
know
like
what you
that.
care about, what you're
Yeah.
passionate about, and share that and bring friends and let's talk. And in those conversations, we said, we're passionate and care about our downtown area.
Yeah.
We created a group called I Believe in Mesa's Downtown. And we talked about how could we make a difference and bringing it back to life. We knew the light rail was coming, so development was coming, and that would be great. But even in that opportunity, how do we keep the beautiful community that was there together
Yeah.
and have it develop in a way that would embrace the community and have those values instead of feeling like a developer's world?
Right. Because I know, like, comparing us to, say, other towns, like, let's say across the freeway, right? Like Gilbert has a really robust downtown. Now, they haven't always either. Theirs has seen some ups and downs as well. But it's so nice to be able to, like, walk around downtown and get a cup of coffee or some dinner and go see a show there at Hale Theater. And so I personally would love nothing more than to have that same experience, but in our own town, right? So you guys are still working on downtown. I've seen like a lot happen in, say, like the last 5 years. So it's obvious that things are going on.
It is on fire right now.
Yeah.
There is so much change coming, but in a good way. And we're working hard on keeping that local, uniquely local is our tagline for downtown as far as the local businesses, but doing some dynamic, innovative, 21st, 22nd century opportunities for business and entrepreneurship to really lead us into being a sustainable city economically, being a creative economy and a vortex of activity where the cross collaboration happens at the coffee shop or in many of our public spaces and places to be where people are discovering and doing things together and creating new ideas.
And that's so great to know. So like as a commercial broker myself, we get small businesses all the time that are like, where should I be next? Where is my unique craft? Where don't they want chain restaurants and things? And so if anyone's out there listening, give us a call because it sounds like downtown Mesa is the place for them right now. So what else is going on what's all coming? What can you tell us?
Well, Main Street is really come alive. We have, I don't know, I can't count the number of craft breweries. I think we could be the top number of craft breweries in a downtown of any of the Valley areas for sure. Very unique kinds and, little shops or restaurants and such. We have that and we're embracing that. The city bought a building. We're going to do a restaurant incubator space. We recognize right now there's a lot of success and the rents are rising. How do we keep it local? We said if we bought this building, worked with Local First, who has this restaurant boot camp, and have that opportunity, there'd be a food court, they could have a small space and be these unique little businesses, and they could try out their business plan, and it would give us a lot of variety, and hopefully they would get to the level that they'd be like, hey, I need the brick and mortar by myself now. I have the volume, I have my business plan is working and I'm profitable, or maybe I need to scale back and rethink it and revise and redo it. So that's an opportunity we're giving, knowing that there's a lot of risk when you're coming in, and we used to be cheap real estate, but that's changing through the success. So we're providing those opportunities. One of the biggest changes that's changing the dynamics of opportunity is the ASU Mix. It's a new school. It's a design school. The digital arts, very advanced. It has 4 studios. It has the Sidney Poitier New American Film School, but they do virtual reality, augmented reality, gaming, all kinds of film. So that is bringing that dynamic of having those juniors and seniors working on that. And we have provided some spaces for some collaboration spaces for them to kind of collaborate and do things with the community. And so while we have our very local side of all kinds of support that we're doing there, and I could go into quite a bit of depth there, we have this part of going into the new age of the digital age and what we can create there to make it a better world.
Well, and how how thoughtful are both of those items, right? You know, talking about like the restaurant space and then the ASU space. It's like, yes, we realize that we are not the most affordable city anymore, right? And that's due to our great success. So how can we still be thoughtful towards our small businesses? And that is such an amazing concept that you guys have come up with, because what our challenge is as brokers when we I sometimes I feel like a dream killer, because it's like someone's like, I have the best new idea for a restaurant, and you know, and I've worked in restaurants, and I'm a great chef. I have a little bit of money, and we're like, yeah, but it's just not enough, right? So if they can start to have that experience and to start to have a proven business model, now we can go out and find them a bigger space, and you know, and help them really achieve their dreams, because we have no in between method for them. So I think that that's super thoughtful and fantastic. And then with the ASU space, that's really thoughtful, because like we need to think about the future, and things are changing so rapidly in terms of media and how students learn and new generations and things like that, that it'll keep them hopefully in Mesa and keeping that innovation there to keep our city like on the forefront of also technology.
Right. So I love that contrast, a very
Yeah.
local innovation and creativity, and the very advanced as far as education
Mhm.
and digital arts. And although they may seem like two separate things, you find out they are collaborating,
Yeah.
because ideas come from different backgrounds, thoughts, and
Mhm.
ideas. So we modeled the downtown after Brookings Institute did an innovation economy analysis on what Mesa. Goes back to 2014, 2015. And they said, you have, with the Art Center, that's a great anchor
Mhm.
to get started here for being an innovation economy, but you need education.
Yes.
And so we have Benedictine University, we have the ASU school. You need to engage and support businesses, especially small businesses and entrepreneurship. So people will come together around that and have that. And the government needs to support these spaces of having incubation spaces, collaboration spaces, public spaces where people come together and create community. And the mayor was forthright on that. I wasn't on council then, but I was in my own little community activist thing of, I believe in Mesa's downtown, and I identified with that, and we're well into that plan of how that comes together. So it wasn't by a hope and a prayer and this and that
Right,
and
there
throw
was-
something else in the recipe and see what happens. It has been very deliberate.
Right. And like a lot of forethought, it sounds like.
And so we've had $500 million worth of investment over the last few years. We have 1,000 units of multifamily under construction to build that density to keep our businesses very happy. So they have those backdoor customers. And we have about another 1,000 in the pipeline, as well as really cool, more businesses adding to the downtown. Just yesterday, we did a ribbon cutting on Newberry Station, which is a co-working space. It's an old Newberry store that was now downtown. They kept that, have the historic elements, and then it's very contemporary how it's furnished and has very advanced amenities. So it seems like every day there's some new awesome, not just ordinary,
right.
awesome addition.
It really does. And then and that's just downtown. Like that's just one little subsection of our very, very large city, right? I mean, we could go into East Mesa, which has is becoming a tech hub, right? We have amazing things going on there. And then there's the Gateway Airport is down there, as well as up by, Northeast Mesa, North Mesa, Falcon Field. And I know that there's quite a bit going on up there. I know I keep getting calls about what are they building at Recker in the 202? And I'm like, it's going to be multifamily housing because we need it, right? If we want to keep paving the way to have all these cool things, well, we need people to live here and enjoy the cool things
and live near where they work. And
Right.
we've been intentional in trying to provide that so that your housing isn't one place and business is in another. having it builds community around that.
Mhm.
You're right. In the Northeast area, especially around aviation, is very, very strong. Boeing has done some new additions, a lot of things going around
Yep.
Falcon Field, and in the Los Angeles area as far as new businesses there. Absolutely. In the Southeast, around Gateway Airport, but there's housing, there's tech corridors, there's Apple and Facebook and, well, Meta, I should say, Google, very advanced manufacturing going
Yeah.
on. The city is over 500,000 people and 138 square miles. So we certainly have villages in different parts of our city with different dynamics going on.
Mhm.
And I love that contrast. Whatever environment you want to be in,
It's there.
we're there. If
Right.
you want to be in an urban environment, if you want to be in where you can have big yards and big
Yep.
skies,
Yep.
we have that, as well as a selection of being a great place to work. Not only
Yeah.
live, we've been a great place to
Right.
live for a long time, but we didn't have the businesses that we should, and we've had a focused.
We certainly do now. And so my brief history is I am also a reformed corporate girl. I worked for the Boeing company. And so I knew that there was a Mesa location down here. And so it's so interesting that it has come full circle that, now I live nearby it. And now my mom works for the Mesa location as a manufacturing engineer.
Wow.
Yes, I was a third generation Boeing worker
Wow.
because I grew up in Seattle. And once upon a time in Seattle, the only place to really work up there was Boeing. Like if Boeing ever did layoffs, like the whole state was devastated. So I'm glad for their economy that they have, kind of diversified and gotten other businesses down there. And we don't see that same kind of impact from one company struggling. But it's just so interesting that same corporate life did not work out for me.
Mhm.
I'm much too outgoing to be in a cubicle for the rest of my life. That just, it wasn't going to jive well. So I went into real estate. Like I said, I love our bubble. We were kind of talking about our bubble earlier and about how Mesa has been very intentional with kind of keeping things in so that they are attractive to people and work for people where they live. And I was teasing my admin because they make fun of me all the time for not wanting to leave my bubble. And I'm like, but I don't need to.
It's environmentally friendly too.
Right? I don't need to travel. I have great food. I get my hair done. I get my nails done. My kids go to school there. All their friends live there. It has really been constructed to where I don't need to leave. So
And that's what builds community. So
Right.
the shop owners when you go in because you
Yes.
frequent it and you live nearby
Mhm.
and your neighbors know them too.
Yeah.
And now we're creating community. So there's a concept in development or in urbanization called 15-minute cities.
Oh,
And 15-minute cities are creating these village areas that you have everything that you need for your life within 15 minutes to walk or bike.
yeah.
A car would just be a couple of minutes, but you might say, I'm going to walk because it's only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I might bike because it's only 5.
Yeah.
It's environmentally friendly, but we have a mix of your retail and restaurants and
Mhm.
shopping and services, along with maybe where you work and live and creating that. And it gives you more back as far as time. You're not getting in the car to go everywhere,
Right.
and you're creating a strong sense of community, which is the rich part of life.
It really is. And then like to add to that, for my kids' school, for my younger daughter's school, I'm the PTA president. And for my older daughter's school, because I have some kind of death wish, I am also involved in her booster club for fine arts. And so being connected to that community is so helpful when it comes to like fundraising or reaching out for community involvement, because the people that work in our community, live in our community, are part of our community, they're small business, like everything, and it just comes full circle. And I just, like I said, I'm a huge fan. So then what's going on? So we know about Northeast Mesa, right? Kind of Los Angeles, Falcon Field area-ish. We talked a little about East Mesa and that tech hub that's happening in downtown Mesa with we're getting that cool vibe. What about West Mesa? What's going on over there? I feel like they're so far removed sometime, and that could just be me from where I live.
Well, in the Southwest, we have what used to be a hub for Mesa, the Fiesta Mall
Oh,
area,
that's
right?
right. Yes,
Back in the
yes.
day, and I'm dating myself, back in the, 80s, that was the place to go. Well, we all know shopping malls was not the thing, and
Right.
that fell. But we've made a lot of improvements in the streetscaping and working intentionally with businesses, and it's through its own renovation.
Mhm.
One of the highlights that we have in West Mesa is our Asian district.
Oh, yes.
So along the Dobson Road corridor, and we've embraced that through the city and doing signage. There's some new murals that we just unveiled and working on, and bringing that together as being this corridor of, and we call it the Asian, there's Chinatowns, whatever, but there are, I don't know how many different Asian cultures are represented as far as the food and services in there. I want to say like some crazy number, like 19 or something.
Yeah.
More than you could ever think about. So it's really diverse, and in its offerings, it's all very local, and it's definitely the best.
That's where H Mart is, right?
H Mart, Mekong Plaza, there are a number of restaurants, and it's a wonderful, so we're trying to make that a more cohesive, more easier to navigate through there.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a feasibility study to do a streetcar to connect
Oh,
into
neat.
Tempe. Tempe has their streetcar down through Rio Salado.
Okay.
So there's a feasibility study to connect into that and bring it down Dobson Road,
Mhm.
going through the Asian corridor, connecting into Mesa Community College
Mhm.
and Banner Hospital. Both have large numbers of people employing or
Right.
going to school there. So that would be another transit. And if you're in the Asian district, maybe just park one place and then you would visit all the little places
Yeah.
along there. So that was going to really escalate that area as well. That's
I'm
exciting.
really excited about that area. And then I follow our mayor on Instagram, and he's really good about going out and eating locally with his wife and, talking about the food. I also saw that a lady I follow also on Instagram, who is a local influencer, AZ Foodie.
Yeah.
She just did a big thing about coming to our Asian district and all the foods over there and stuff. And I'm sure that that was some kind of partnership, but that was pretty smart because, talking about being thoughtful and, seeing into the future, social media is, I think, a very relatively easy, effective, and fairly inexpensive way to really reach like masses of people, in a way that our traditional channels like the news or newspaper, which is almost gone, right, can't do. So it's
Right.
really, it was so interesting to see her there. I just wanted to be like, hi.
Well,
She
you don't
didn't
have to be a
respond to
big
me.
business with big budgets in order to have the marketing. That's the way it used to be. But
Right.
with social media, you can be a business of any size,
Yeah.
and especially small businesses. And we realize that, and knowing the power of that. So as a council, and certainly our mayor, he's a wonderful foodie. Just, I've gained 35 pounds.
I
since
bet he
done this."
has.
He enjoys it all. That visiting and giving what media we can on top of what they're doing
Right.
to escalate and to introduce it. And I think that's something we all love, is discovering a new local place
Yeah.
that's original and interesting, and it's the experience.
Right.
So that is one of the things that we try to do, not only as a council, but we support as a city in our economic development department. We have a business builder, which we provide a lot of tools, workshops, one-on-one services in order to make sure you have the Google presence, you're maximizing, you understand your social media, as well as if you need some accounting help, if you need some
Wow.
whatever that is, how can we help you really maximize or launch or
Mhm.
your business, and it's targeted at small businesses.
Well, and leadership comes from the top down too. So how meaningful is that if the mayor is coming to your business and then shouting it out on, his social media networks, and it just sends such a positive message of like, hey, we not only say what we do, but we do what we do, and we do support you. So I remember when I first moved back from Seattle, or from Portland actually, that time, I remember thinking how kind of cool that was, right?
Yeah.
That was super supportive. The Fiesta Mall is like a big question mark these days, because didn't that just also like something fell out recently, correct?
It was a complex mess of multiple owners owning that property. Do
Yeah.
you know that someone owns the land and someone owns the common space within the mall, and then the anchor real estate, the businesses, like those department stores, was maybe another owner, and there's all these different owners. You talk to them like something needs to happen with this property, and we're down to one owner.
Yes.
And there's discussions of it being a mixed use, which would be housing and businesses, retail. We haven't seen plans or renderings,
Right.
but at least we're in that direction.
Right. In commercial real estate, we call mixed use the mullet of real estate, because it's party on the top and business down below.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just our
So
loving
that'll
little.
be coming together. In the
Yeah.
meantime, there's a lot of new housing along
Yeah.
there.
Well, and it is a smart use of space, right?
Mhm.
Because in any design challenge, when you don't have enough space, what do? You go vertical. And
Right.
so if you do have businesses on the bottom with living on the top, then it brings more people, and then you have a built-in customer base for the businesses that are there, and that's also thoughtful. I thought I saw, where is that? Is that on Power and the 60? I think it used to be a Kmart. I think that they're doing a mixed use space there. Am I right?
Is it mixed use or multifamily? Something.
Yeah,
There's
something going
yeah,
on there too.
yeah.
I saw it one day when I was driving by, and I'm pretty sure that that's what it was. Um, so over in Northeast Mesa, one of our favorite spots, and you can tell me if we can't chat about this or anything, was the Power Truck Food Park.
Oh,
Yeah. I was so sad. That was just me personally. And I
Yeah.
feel like I understand probably better than the average individual, like the complexities and things of zoning and stuff like that. But from a community standpoint, it was a little disheartening. Like our kids saw their friends there, and can you explain to people maybe on a high level, like kind of what happened?
I'm trying to go back, and it's not
I
my
know.
district, but I'm going to
Yeah.
just give you a rough
Super
nutshell.
high level,
Okay.
yeah.
And don't hold me to it. Okay. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
It was a big thing in the discussion. It was very controversial. So they allowed some food trucks to come together, but actually it grew and
Mhm.
become a big darn deal. And it had
It
a
did.
lot of impacts on the local neighborhood. And that the way it came together, it wasn't zoned for it.
No, it was
and
not.
so that created some pushback when people discovered, hey, it didn't have the proper zoning, and they tried to get it. But at that point, there was so much of a war kind of going
Oh,
on
yeah.
with the residents who were living next to it, and that it wasn't going to
It
work
was
out.
causing wars like in the neighborhood, like those of us that were like for and against, because we live really close to it. So, and we didn't have a problem with it, but there was signs in people's yards, and like on the Nextdoor app, those that are like for, it was almost like trying to talk politics with your friends, because like it was so like different opposing sides, and
Yeah.
I did not envy those that had to sit at the table and make those decisions.
It was an awesome park. I really liked
yeah.
it, but it didn't fit where it was. If it was in a different place, it probably would have got some
Yeah.
approvals, caught up for approvals on
Yeah,
the zoning.
because it was literally neighboring
houses.
Yeah, residential houses for
Yeah.
those that are wondering what we're talking about. It literally like shared a fence with people that were trying to live and enjoy their homes. Yeah.
So last week we just approved a plan for some like townhomes.
Okay.
Along there, and so you'll be seeing housing there.
Yeah,
now.
which makes more sense.
And I wish the food park would find a place that would be appropriate,
Yeah.
because I know everybody enjoyed it. It just didn't work there.
Yeah, I wonder where they could go. I know I've even tried to contact them and be like, if you need any help, like I'm a total fan, but I also understand commercial real estate. So if you guys need help finding
Yeah.
another space, let me know. We can help you out with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, townhomes, that'll be interesting.
Well, we have to think about the neighbors and
Right.
something that wouldn't be too disruptive to that
Right.
neighbor.
Yeah.
So
Other
housing,
homes. Right.
housing. Yeah.
That makes sense. And
There had been other options previously.
Oh, had there?
Like storage and an office park,
Yeah.
various things that never worked.
Mhm.
And so that was kind of the last option on the table that the neighborhood would accept.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And it's nice that the city does take into account that people live there and they're not just like slap happy and putting, kind of things wherever they make sense. But I think what they were doing was when I lived in Portland, there was it was, I don't know what they called it, but it was basically the same concept. It was all undercover because it always rains there. And it was just a nice, like, kind of community gathering place. And so I think their hearts were in the right place.
Mhm.
They just,
Yeah,
the
it was awesome.
execution just kind of wasn't there.
No, it kind
Yeah.
of took off before they had everything legally in place. And
Right.
and even if they did, I don't know.
Right.
It was just too intense.
Yeah, which means that there's a need for it.
Mhm.
So if anyone's listening, find the spot because
Exactly.
clearly there's a need for it. And I mean, it was well attended and everything else.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we're traveling around our city,
Okay,
right? Yep,
okay.
we've hit the Northeast, we've hit kind of the Southeast in our tech corridor, a little bit on Fiesta. What other big cool things are going on as you fly over our city and kind of view down?
Well, the only part we haven't really talked about, and there's nothing really new there,
Mhm.
is in the Northwest where we have the Cubs, Sloan Park.
Yeah.
There's a new soccer field that's going on all around Center and the Beeline area. So that, and then of course we have the Oakland A's for park on Center and Brown. So that area is starting to be more of a place for a lot of the professional sports
Mhm.
or team sports and such. There is a Legacy Sports down in Southeast Mesa. That's a huge
Yeah,
sports
how-
complex.
That's supposed to be like for like softball games and kind of thing, like tournament type, right?
Yeah,
I think.
it's hundreds of acres.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's that at? Do you remember?
Like it's off
like
of Ellsworth
Yeah, I
and
think like Ray.
Ray or
Yeah.
something like that.
How do we know how close that is to being done? Because I
It's
think.
done and it's operating.
Oh, it is?
They've had some struggles
Oh.
financially, so
Oh.
we'll see what happens. But it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And we have a wave park coming. What's the name of that? I can't remember. Cannon Beach.
That's right.
Wave Park. Yes, our own buddy JJ Levinsky from Blue Wave Construction. That's one of his projects. And I know that they've also had challenges because what an interesting time we're in too,
Mhm.
where we have like supply chain issues and labor issues on top of just, what is going on a daily basis anyway.
It is so hard right now. The construction costs, getting labor.
Yeah.
Still, things are softening on that horizon as far as with interest rates climbing.
Yeah.
It's softened the development
Right.
world, and so we're seeing things come back to a somewhat
Kind of slowed that down a little bit.
same
Yeah.
level.
That like it was the pace that everything was at, which again, it like the intention is great, right? We want innovation, we want building coming, but at the same time, we can't do it like at the expense of
we're
everything else. Right.
fastest growing county in the United States, Maricopa County. Plus, we had large scale manufacturing like TSMC was not in Mesa, it's in North
No,
Phoenix.
but it's a huge project.
And Intel. And so when you look at the mass amount of construction and materials and labor for some of these huge projects, it did have an additional impact on top of the
Right.
growth.
Well, I know even just for like small businesses, speaking of like the semiconductor plant, it was like pool businesses. It was like nobody could get quick concrete. And so like pool construction was like a year out. So we were also having people move here at the same time. And of course, we live in a state of abundant sunshine. So they want a pool. We're like, just kidding. You're not going to get one for like a year because
Yeah, I think gold was cheaper than concrete. That's what the
I believe it.
builders were saying. They're just like anything with concrete, and just might as well build it out of gold. It'd be
Yeah.
cheaper.
But I mean, think about going back to small businesses. Our poor small businesses were being affected because the large mega businesses were gobbling up the resources that they need to stay in business.
So that's why it's important to always support your local
Yes,
businesses. The
yes.
money stays in your community and it supports the families that you are in your neighborhood.
Yes. And so as an elected official, is that one of your priorities, local businesses? What are your priorities as an elected official?
It is. I am a small business, as I explained
Mm-hmm.
before, not in the retail sense. Thank goodness. It's a lot of hard work to be
Uh-huh.
retail. But I am a pro small business, pro local business. And I do throw a lot of support and do whatever I can to make sure that we're doing our best, because it is the resilience, is the enjoyment of to have these small businesses and local businesses. We enjoy it as part of our community, but makes us resilient.
Mm-hmm.
So through the ups and downs of economies, if you have thousands of small businesses and a few large businesses, a large business leaves, or you're good. You got to have an economy
Right.
still that's stable. And so we want to provide that as a resilient economy as well. So
Yeah.
providing that so that we don't have all our eggs in one basket, which is large scale businesses.
Right. No,
And the employment is local. So your local shop is employing probably a local accountant, a
Mhm.
local supplier is employing locally.
Right.
It's giving usually back locally.
Well, and yes, because I know, like, from our brokerage standpoint, we represent a lot of small businesses, small investors, smaller investors, that your larger commercial brokerages, who are all very prevalent, don't really have time for, right? But they are here in our economy, and they want to open restaurants, and they want to, run apartments, and there's things that they want to do within their community. And it's frustrating when like a mega brokerage won't talk to them. So we have completely made a niche business out of partnering with our local community, with residential agents and things like that, to best serve those businesses. So when I went to the Mesa planning session, he was the economic director, Bill. He because it's a huge city and there's a lot going on, so it was a very lengthy presentation, but it was so fascinating. And there was a couple ladies in the back who at the end were raising their hands for questions, and they're like, Bill, how come all these chain restaurants are coming in Southeast Mesa? We don't want to just eat fast food, like we want others. And he was trying to explain, and then also I kind of jumped in and said, it's a hard line to balance. It's delicate, because especially if someone's building it, right, and developing it, when you're just, say, like a small business or a local business, you don't necessarily have the funds required to then literally build a building, right, with a drive-through or whatever else they're looking for.
Deep pockets.
Right. And so sometimes you need to look at those large corporations or chains, because they have the deeper pockets to be able to build. But it's obviously a need, because they were in the back raising their hand.
Definitely. I mean, there's a place for everything.
Right.
And along busy arterials that are moving 45 miles per hour,
Right.
those chains that have that instant identification, that's where they're getting
That
their
makes the
business.
most sense
And
out
you
of
want to do
anything
the
I've heard.
drive-through, and you're in a hurry. And I know in the kind of strip malls behind those, you see the drive-throughs and such. There's a lot of controversy about drive-throughs right now. But anyway,
I've heard.
that's a long conversation. But the businesses behind it, more in the strip part of it, they depend on that traffic coming in. So there is a time and a place for everything.
Yes.
We do have chain businesses, and they are needed in certain areas where a small business never could be, because they
Right.
couldn't afford it. They wouldn't have any recognition in that 45-mile-per-hour traffic. But in the village concept around neighborhoods, where you slow it down,
Right.
and that's where you have building that community, and you're walking to that. It's a neighborhood commercial type environment. That's where local or small businesses can do well and be supported by those local neighborhoods that are walking or biking. So the chain environment is usually more in a busy, arterial, fast-paced environment.
That makes so much sense.
And then when you slow it down in that placemaking near your neighborhoods and community, and making that little 15-minute city, that little village, that's where you can really embrace your smaller businesses and get to know the people there and what they do.
Right. And that makes total sense. That's probably makes more sense out of anything I've heard. Because if you think about kind of that spot that they were talking about, it's like that power in the 202, right? And I know that it is a common theme in Arizona that we have a tendency to drive fast on all of our roads.
Our city is built that way.
But you're right. If like power is a major road and
those
you
mega
are
areas
buzzing by it, and you're recognizing Target, you're recognizing like, what is that, the Roadhouse right there or whatever, but you're recognizing like chain type places because they make you stop and slow down. And then it's like, okay, wait, where am I need a sandwich. And then it's like, oh, that's a cute neighborhood over there, right? And because people live then over there. And then if you think about the way communities are built, then that makes total sense.
Right. So a place for everything. I'm big into the local just because I live in a downtown
Yours
environment,
developed,
very urban environment, which is very slow. We don't pride ourselves on making time through traffic in a downtown area. We want everything to be slowed down and be more walkable, bikeable, and about people on the streets. And so that's where I get into my, let's keep it local. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite places downtown to like eat or shop, or, where could we find Jenn?
Oh, when I retire, I'm gonna make a full-time job, just like hanging out downtown.
When your full-time job is just eating at all the restaurants,
just hanging out downtown. And we have our community hanging out in any of the coffee shops. So we have 7 or 8 coffee shops. I love them all. Some of my favorites are Organic Bean Company on North McDonald, which is next to a Novel Ice Cream, which is open late, which is so sinful. Jared's Coffee, the Nile is absolutely fabulous. Each of them have their own character, and so depending on my mood, what kind of space, if I'm meeting with someone, if you want to intersect with community, I'd probably go to Jared's. There's people always in and out, like it's a little hub of, and the Nile I can have my little corner, to meet with someone. It has a little bit more space,
right?
And and then we have so many fabulous restaurants, Republica Empanada, Blue Adobe Grill, which is actually on Country Club.
Yeah.
Espiritu is one of the new rages.
What's that?
It is this corridor of this little place. It's very narrow and long, but it is a hip vibe. It has a very craft cocktails or a thing there. And they, the guy, his name is escaping me, but he just won the Chopped.
He just won from the Food Network.
Yeah. So he's the chef there. So he has some very creative things. There's some things on the menu, but always ask like what they're doing in the kitchen, and yummy creative things. And it's kind of a later night feel vibe to it. It's more of a date night. You wouldn't bring your mom there. But we have Proof Bread. We have great breweries. Oro is
Cider
one of my favorites. Cider Core. Yeah. Arizona's first hard cider place, and they're doing remarkably well. You'll see them in all the grocery stores with but they have Mike's Pizza.
Mike's, like a bicycle?
Mike's Pizza with a Pizzeria Bianco. Yeah, it's right there. I don't know. I like Mike's, but it's right there. It's that brick oven with the right. Yeah.
So that's my favorite with that
it's
kind of
all
the
these little
crust.
a takeaway has won a number of awards down there.
Worth
Takeaway. This is a sandwich shop. They had the top chicken sandwich in Arizona per Phoenix Magazine a couple of years ago. They have yummy sandwiches, and have a strong following. A lot of people will come there just for Worth.
Wow.
I have to go down some. I'm going to get in trouble for leaving out a lot of
I know
good ones.
Sorry, our local businesses.
I should have had my list in front of me.
It's hard to try and remember everybody.
Tacos Chivas. That one's really good. That's my favorite.
Well, it's no wonder our mayor has gained 35 pounds.
No kidding. Between that and the Asian district, there's so.
And I just haven't spent enough time down there yet, and I need to. We are going to the Mesa Art Center for my daughter wants to go to this anime conference. It's an anime con, and she's really excited. And I was excited that it was in Mesa, because typically those kinds of things are in Phoenix or something big. And so the fact that it was like in our backyard.
Yeah. And I feel we're an approachable downtown. Sometimes when I go to other downtowns like Phoenix, or it's like so big,
It's
and where I'm going to
massive.
park and how I'm going to get there. And I feel like, just pull up, go in the garage, and I get there, and then you can walk to everything. And I don't feel like overwhelmed with how to navigate getting there.
How can, like, speaking of like Phoenix, how can other cities support small businesses, do you think, or like bring in small businesses? What would you tell them?
Well, a lot along the lines what I spoke about in the economic development, providing those tools that so they can have the support, the opportunities to up their game as far as, hey, I need to get my books online. I need a Google presence, and I need a social media. And how do I do this? Or how do I build my business plan? We provide a lot of workshops online and collaborations with partners like Cahoots, so the small business can have those opportunities to have a strong foundation. We also have created what we call the studios, which is an old library that we retrofitted. ASU is administrating it, but it is a collaboration space to come in and hang out. It's free. You can do some work there. You can have a meeting there. And we are building a small business resource center on the second floor. So you will be able to be one-on-one with the city and possibly some other associated partners to say, I'm starting a business, or I'm expanding my business. What kind of permit do I need? What kind of other things do I need? And you can have a conversation and not be like trying to navigate a website or going from department to department. You can have like a comprehensive look at what I need to be able to get started or expand.
Wow.
So we want to be one-on-one with our businesses and providing that conversational interface instead of a big business, a big city interface, we feel is important, and we've dedicated space to do that. We've also invited co-working spaces so that you, as a small business, if you're more of an office environment, not a retail environment, you can have, like I mentioned, Newberry Station just opened, and we have Cahoots that just opened, and we're working on some incubation spaces. We have Launch Point, which is one, but I want to expand that also in our Site 17, which is a master plan of 25 acres and has different elements, but providing areas for people to experiment, especially in advanced ideas or digital arts, spinning off what we have in ASU. But providing all that from support into spaces to get started and to collaborate, and spaces to expand. And then we want to work with them and moving them to other parts of Mesa if their business is booming or they need a larger space to make their widgets.
Right. I was just going to say, for that business resource center, if they need to talk to a commercial broker as to how do I get a space, what is needed, I would love to be a resource for that as well. Because like I said, I hate being the dream killer. I hate being the one who's like, oh man, you need a business plan. Like, and I'm happy to help. I'm happy, like, we work with small businesses all the time from the ground up, and we're like, okay, here's what a business plan is. Here's what you need. Here's our financial documents to provide to you to kind of fill out, that we can present landlords to show them, that you may not be a strong business right now, but you do have, backing or whatever is required to expand their space or to even start their space. There's so much involved in it, more than just, great ideas. So I would be happy to help.
Yeah, we want to have those partners and refer people to, and maybe talk to them so people really know what they're getting into or what they can do to capitalize on what they're already doing. Right. And we want to build that resource network on top of being hands-on with the city for face-to-face. In other words.
And then we as a city, as Mesa, right, we have our leadership development program too, right? Can you tell everybody kind of what that is as well? Because I know that's something I've wanted to sign up for, but having a business and 2 kids sometimes, and a podcast and everything else, right, and PTA and all the other things that
There's a Mesa leadership program. Most cities do have programs, and there's a Valley leadership
Okay.
in a larger scale. But the leadership programs introduce you to different aspects of the city. I took it in 2012, native to Mesa, business owner and such. I still learned so much about my city and the key institutions and key departments and how things work, our waterways, our energy. It goes on and on. It really broadened my scope of my city. And I think it's very worthwhile. They're an annual program. I think they start in September, end of May. You apply, and there's a fee for it, but they also have scholarships.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's very worthwhile. It's under the umbrella of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce.
Got it. That is, and I think that that's, supportive as well, right? Like, I just can't get over how many resources we have that people may not know about. So I'm so glad you were here today to help, especially small businesses, come to specifically Mesa, but it sounds like there's opportunities in our valley in general. So you may live here and have our resource and use our resources, and we'd love for you to stay in Mesa, but we also just want you to be a successful business in general.
Right.
Right.
And I believe the more you discover and learn, the more you start falling in love with your community. And that
Yes.
happened for me.
Same.
And so it's also just being a bigger part of the community. And for so many years, I just did my thing and, went on and maybe volunteered for this and that, but I didn't feel ingrained in my community. And that's when I really felt my life became richer for me, is when I got to know my community and felt part of it.
Right.
Instead of just a visitor or just a resident.
Right. Well, you take a lot of ownership and pride in it then too, more than just like your house and even your neighborhood. You begin to take pride in our entire city and our community, and and follow the neighbor or the mayor on Instagram, and
and I know we were talking about this earlier about attending a council meeting or just
Yes.
watching a council
Yes.
meeting on Mesa 11 or Facebook or YouTube, wherever you like. But people think, well, I'm only one person out of 500,000. If I
Right.
don't like this in my city, or I have an idea, no one's going to, oh no, let me tell you, we have held up cases in planning and zoning or through council and stuff, because we really want to hear and understand from people. And we have stretched them out because we wanted to evaluate that
Yeah.
completely before we made decisions. We need that in
Right.
order that our city reflects the values of our residents when they become engaged.
Right.
So if you feel like, I don't like my city for this or that, become engaged and be part of that conversation. Believe me, we listen.
Right.
We listen. There's not a higher priority for me than listening to my residents
Well, that is
and
fantastic.
businesses.
Yeah, that's fantastic because, I think it was on another podcast with another community group where it was like sometimes only the like loud, mad people are the ones that come to meetings or that speak up, and really we need all the
Everybody.
opinions. Yes, and so one person really does matter. Well, thank you so much, Jen. How can everybody get a hold of you, or how can they get involved also?
Well, I am on all the social media, and right now my title on the social media is Vice Mayor Jenn Duff. And in January, that will change to council member. I'll be concluding my 2-year term as vice
Aw.
mayor, and it will be voted upon the board for another person to carry that leadership role and filling in for the mayor when he's not available.
Got it.
So Vice Mayor Jenn Duff right now, and it could be council member Jenn Duff, which should also show up on a search. My email address is councilmember.duff@mesaaz.gov or district4@mesaaz.gov. And what was the other part of the question?
Oh, how can people get more involved, say in their city or in our Mesa City Council or anything like that? Aside from just like showing up to meetings, how could they see them?
I would say to pay attention on social. We have a City of Mesa government. Now I know it sounds, that's going to be boring. No, we're putting out there as much as possible everything that is going on, and you
Good.
might spark an interest. And there's so many different ways to get involved. I have a newsletter, most council members do. So among the media, whatever, I would say just watch that and see things that you're interested in, you can just put it on in the background and shoot off an email or DM a message and see what's going on and have a voice in shaping that.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
You've been listening to Smashing Through Walls, a place for robust conversations about the building and blocks of Arizona commercial and real estate investments. Host Carla McGee is a commercial real estate broker with MHG Commercial, powered by My Home Group. The opinions expressed here are not necessarily the opinions of My Home Group and do not constitute any offer or advertisement of business or services. The real estate market is cyclical, and listeners assume all responsibility should any return on investment, tax consequences, credit effects, or financing terms not meet their expectations. Guests may not be qualified to provide financial, legal, or tax advice regarding a real estate transaction. Listeners are advised to obtain professional tax and legal advice and counsel.